Today I'm going to be talking about Silent House, and this is one that's been in my instant queue on Netflix for such a long time. So it came out in 2012, and it's actually a remake of the Uruguayan movie La Casa Muda, and which means the Silent House, I guess. That was supposedly based on true events. And the thing that was supposed to be unique about this movie is that it was shot in one continuous take. No cuts, no nothing. However, like, I went into it thinking that, but I was actually doing research in the beginning of the movie. I wasn't really paying attention. But, so that's how it was kind of marketed, is that it's individual because it's just one shot. But the actress Elizabeth Olsen, who plays the main girl Sarah, she told an interviewer that it was actually shot in 12 to 15 minute takes and then just edited together in a way that makes it look like it's one continuous shot. Now, they did this because they had some technical issues with the lighting, and you can tell that they had technical issues. They left some of those issues in. It did make it seem more realistic, but sometimes you couldn't really see what was going on. You couldn't really hear what was going on. I had to turn my AC off because I couldn't hear what was happening. It's kind of a quiet movie. Hence the name Silent House. But they also had mobility issues within the house with the production crew and everything, with the cameras and whatnot, moving about the house as they were shooting it. So they did have to cut it into separate takes to just edit together. And you can see where they could possibly cut it. It's not obvious by any means, but you can tell that that's what they did. So the plot is about a girl named Sarah, and her uncle and her father are all kind of working on this house to fix it up. I believe it's her childhood house because her father and her are there to pack up their things in hopes to sell it. So they're kind of fixing it up. The electricity goes out, so they're walking around with lanterns, which I think adds to the scare factor a little bit. So there isn't any power and everything's so dark. That's another thing. It's a very dark movie and you don't miss anything, but like I said, with the technical issues, they didn't have the best lighting because it wasn't really professional in a way. So she begins to hear noises in the house, and she starts to see what she thinks are people inside the house, and her dad and her they get attacked. But there's a lot more to the story than what it appears. So I was surprised that there was more plot in this movie than I expected. I thought because it was supposedly shot in one take that the plot would remain really simple. I've never seen La Casa Muda or read about it or anything, but I do know it's based on an event that happened in a village in the 1940s, and you can read about it, but if you do read about it, it may spoil the spoiler, or spoil the spoiler. It may spoil the twist at the end of this movie. It did have a twist at the end, and I'll kind of go into it after I do the ratings, and I'll warn you because I kind of read about this movie before watching it, and if I hadn't done that, then the ending probably would have shocked me a little bit, but it was kind of predictable in a way. But I'm going to talk about it at the end in case you don't want to hear about it. You don't want me to spoil it for you or anything. I think you'd still enjoy it even if you heard kind of what it's about. I can't really go into the plot much further than what I've already said without spoiling it, but I'll do that all at the end, so if you want to stick around for that, then stay tuned. So now I'm going to go into the ratings. For acting, I gave it a 9. I don't know if it was Elizabeth Olsen's first debut film. I don't really know if she's been in anything else. She's Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen's sister, in case you didn't know. I thought she was amazing, especially with having to do such long takes without there being cuts all the time. She pulled it off really well. I think one thing that made it easier on the actors, is there wasn't a lot of dialogue at all. A lot of it was reaction and screams and stuff like that you can remember, versus a ton of lines. So I think that helped with the acting. It didn't feel forced. It kind of felt really natural as they were talking to each other. It felt like they were actually real people. The plot I gave an 8 because I did kind of see the end coming, even though I cheated and read about it. I didn't read the whole plot. I just knew what the La Casa Muda story was about, and so I was expecting something like that in this movie because I knew it was based on that. So I did give it an 8. It does have a really good ending. I don't know, I think it was pretty strong. Characters were an 8. I didn't feel like they had a lot of depth. They were very stagnant throughout the whole thing. They didn't grow, they didn't develop or anything like that throughout the movie. They were just kind of themselves the whole way through. I don't know if that makes sense, but you kind of expect in this kind of movie for them to change and grow. And I mean, the acting changed. Obviously, she went from being normal to scared and stuff like that, but it kind of felt flat at times, where the characters didn't seem all that well-rounded. Scare factor, I gave a 7. It was definitely more of a suspense type horror. I wouldn't even consider it a horror, really. It's more thriller suspense. Yeah, and it wasn't that scary. I mean, you can kind of predict when things were gonna happen. However, I did like that sometimes I was expecting like a jump and there wasn't a jump. I don't know, I don't know, it wasn't as scary as I thought it was gonna be. Given that it was all in her perspective. There was a disturbing aspect that played into it at the end, which I really liked. I think that added to the scare factor, but overall it was just okay. The effects were a 7. There wasn't really much to go on anyway. It was basically a little bit of blood, and that was it. So, I mean, it's probably unfair to give it a low rating in effects when it didn't have any effects to begin with, but what they did have, it was alright. I mean, it wasn't that realistic. So the overall score, I gave it an 8. I would recommend it if you're just in the mood for something kind of suspenseful with a twist and kind of an interesting ending, a little bit unexpected if you don't stick around for the end of my video. It's pretty good, so I would recommend it. You can watch the trailer down below and see if it's something you'd be interested in. But now I'm going to go into a possible spoiler. I'm not going to give everything away, but I am going to go into what La Casa Muda is about and stuff like that. So if you don't want to know that and you just want to watch it without, then you can turn off this video now. So the movie is really about incest. That's what it comes down to. So that's why it wasn't a huge surprise to me when you find out there was some incest going on at the end. I mean, not like in the end of the movie there's incest. I mean, previously it was involved. So basically Sarah goes mad and she starts remembering all these things that happened to her in her childhood. And it's really disturbing. It's really hard to put that kind of stuff, like child abuse and child molestation and things like that, in a movie and be safe with it. I think they did a good job. But it was really, really disturbing because she, at one point, is in a bathroom and she sees a girl in the bathtub with like beer bottles, and the water is red, it's bloody, and you just know what has happened to her, and now she's in the bath, and it's just really sad and disturbing. And then you find out it's her younger self, I guess you would say. And she's just now remembering all these things that have happened to her. And so it's really sad and she goes crazy. And I liked that. I liked that they added that. I thought it was going to be, going into it, I didn't know that it was about incest until I read about it. But I thought it was going to be like a typical like haunted house movie, or you know, there were going to be strangers in the house that were out to get them and attack them, and that's what you assume up until a certain point, and then you start questioning, well, why is a little girl there and a man? But now you know what it's really about. It's about incest, and it's gross and it's disturbing, so that's why it added to the scare factor. So that's basically all I have to say about Silent House. Go ahead and check it out if you haven't. It is on Netflix, which makes it convenient. I may do a little segment about my top Netflix favorites, just so you guys, it's easier access for you to watch them if they're on Netflix, I think. So that might be a little something I may do eventually, maybe after my 6 segments are over. I don't know. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.